Imagine this. A book is written. A book so powerful that rulers have secretly read it for over 500 years. Kings, emperors, generals, and even modern politicians. Because this book revealed something about power that almost no one dared to say out loud. It said this: if a ruler must choose, it is better to be feared than loved. This was not just advice. It was a hidden law of politics. The book also revealed something else. People are not ruled by ideals, but by fear and self-interest. And sometimes, to keep power, a ruler must learn how not to be good. Many people were shocked by these ideas. Some even called this one of the most dangerous books in history. Yet rulers continued to read it, because this book explained how power really works. The name of that book was The Prince, and the man who wrote it was Niccolò Machiavelli. But Machiavelli did not invent these ideas out of imagination. He had seen the darkest side of power with his own eyes. In the early 1500s, Italy was not a single country like it is today. It was divided into powerful city-states: Florence, Milan, Venice, and each of them was fighting for power. Conspiracies, betrayals, secret alliances, and an endless struggle for control. It was in the middle of this political storm that Niccolò Machiavelli appeared. He began working as a diplomat for the Republic of Florence. His mission was not simple. He had to meet some of the most dangerous rulers of his time. And during one of these missions, he encountered a man who would change the way he understood power forever. This man was ruthless, but he was also brilliant. And Machiavelli began observing his methods very carefully. The man's name was Cesare Borgia. Cesare Borgia was unlike any ruler Machiavelli had ever seen. He was not interested in appearing virtuous. He was interested in control. Borgia understood something most rulers refused to admit. Power was not maintained by kindness. Power was maintained by fear and precision. At the time, central Italy was chaotic. Local warlords controlled different cities, each one loyal only to himself. Cesare Borgia decided to bring them under his rule. But he did not begin with open brutality. He began with strategy. He appointed a man named Ramiro de Orco to govern the region. Ramiro was known for being ruthless, and Borgia gave him absolute authority. Within months, order was restored. Bandits disappeared. Rebellions were crushed. Fear spread throughout the region. But fear alone creates hatred. And Cesare Borgia understood this perfectly. So once the region was stable, he did something shocking. One morning, the people woke up to a horrifying sight. In the central square of the city, the body of Ramiro de Orco had been cut in half, displayed publicly, with a knife placed beside him. The message was clear. The cruelty was not the ruler's fault. It was the servants. and the servant had been punished. The people were terrified, but they were also relieved. In a single move, Borgia had done two things. He had used cruelty to create order, and then used justice to win the people's support. When Machiavelli witnessed this strategy, he was stunned, because he realized something most political thinkers had ignored. Successful rulers did not rely on morality. They relied on control. And sometimes, control required actions that looked cruel, but produced stability. Years later, when Machiavelli wrote The Prince, Cesare Borgia became the closest example of the perfect ruler he had ever seen. But power rarely stays in one place forever. In 1512, the political balance in Florence shifted. The powerful Medici family returned to control the city, and the government Machiavelli had served for years was suddenly replaced. For the new rulers, Machiavelli was not a useful advisor. He was a man connected to the previous system. So quietly, without ceremony, he was removed from power. The diplomatic missions stopped. The political meetings ended, and the doors of government slowly closed behind him. For the first time in many years, Niccolò Machiavelli was no longer inside the world of power. He returned to a quiet life outside the center of politics. Days were simple. He walked through the countryside, spoke with farmers, read old texts, and watched politics from a distance. But every evening, something remarkable happened. After the day was over, Machiavelli would change his clothes. He would put on formal garments, as if he were about to enter a royal court. Then he would sit at his desk, open his books, and begin writing. In those quiet hours of the night, he returned to everything he had witnessed. The rise of rulers, the collapse of governments, the ambition of generals, the fragile nature of power. He wrote about the things most political thinkers avoided: fear, manipulation, control. He did not write about how rulers should behave. He wrote about how power actually works. Years of political experience distilled into a small, dangerous book. That book was called The Prince. And that is the paradox of Niccolò Machiavelli. For centuries, people have called him dangerous, immoral, even evil. But Machiavelli never claimed to teach virtue. He claimed to explain reality. He watched kings rise. He watched governments collapse. He watched powerful men lose everything because they misunderstood how power truly works. So he wrote a book that removed the illusion. Power is not maintained by ideals alone. It is maintained by understanding human nature. Fear, ambition, loyalty, and betrayal. That is why, even 500 years later, people still argue about Machiavelli. Was he exposing the dark side of politics, or teaching rulers how to master it? So now I want to ask you something. Do you think Machiavelli was revealing the truth about power? or creating one of the most dangerous political philosophies in history? Tell me your opinion in the comments. Because the debate about Machiavelli has never truly ended. And perhaps it never will. But maybe the most famous line he ever wrote explains everything. If people cannot both love you and fear you, then it is safer to be feared. Niccolò Machiavelli.